Welcome to the Showfile Podcast live at Factory Reset in Strongroom. Everybody make some noise! Woo. We've got Polly Money, artist and session musician for the 1975 Dodie and Gracie. And we've got Cy Francis, music director and session musician for Kylie and Ellie Goulding. So we're going to get into like a bit of a flip conversation from the one we just had, which is what session musicians expect of music directors. Because I don't think you can have a music director chat like that if we don't hear the other side of that story. Also, we've kind of deliberately made these two separate podcasts just because I want everybody to be very honest about what they think and what they feel about the way that they interact with that other person in teams, right? Because, you know, we all need to be able to work honestly with each other, and that's one of the things that, you know, Jake and I believe in, and one of the reasons that Factory Reset is even in existence is I think sometimes we aren't honest, and that's kind of the point of all of this. So, you know, we mentioned it in the last one, like as music directions changed, you know, the role of the session player has changed, and there's, in our chats pre this to make content for the hungry content monster, I think we did find, like, you know, slightly different topics and slightly different directions of this conversation to what maybe initially we anticipated it to be, right? You know, also, I don't intend any of this to be like a slagging off match of like, well, you guys are fuckers because of this, you guys are fuckers, because often that division is quite common on tours, right? So I think that that's the goal, right? Is that if we're all a bit more honest with each other, we all talk about their roles and how they interact with each other, where things are working, where things aren't working, where we can and can't expect things from each other. Maybe we'll be able to get ourselves to a point where we can actually have consistently nice shows, both for the artist and for the people on stage and for the fucking fans, because, you know, a lot of this stuff is always going to be talking about what we're all doing, when actually it's the people who've bought a ticket who've schlepped it in the rain, or, you know, got a fucking ticket down from wherever the fuck because nobody plays a gig in anywhere other than London anymore, and then they also had to pay for the fucking hotel. I mean, that's a hardcore fan coming to your show, and we need to make sure that they have the experience they came for. Yes, please.
Yeah, value on their investment, right?
Get some fucking value for these fans. Because holy shit, do we need them to buy tickets? Please buy more tickets. So let's start as something that's probably quite obvious, but also, as with every obvious topic on Showfile Podcast Live at Factory Reset, it turns out there's a darker turn to it. So helping musicians to be prepared is the core of music direction, arguably. And I think it's probably a little bit more complicated than we necessarily think a lot of the time, because music's very intricate and complicated and highly produced nowadays, and we're always dissecting it and breaking it down to build shows with. So I guess that's probably a good place for both of you to start, because you both have lots of experience of having to be prepared for gigs. You know, there's lots of things broken and a lot of things that aren't. So maybe that's a good place to start, is like, for you, Polly, when you're coming into a show, like, if we start at the bare minimum, I guess we can then start to build up from there, right?
Yeah, I think I've kind of played a lot of small shows and some bigger shows, and I think especially when it comes to the smaller shows, there's often, as you've spoken before, like not massive budgets, so very little time to kind of get a hour's worth of a kind of show ready in a short space of time. So I think, you know, for me, if I can be told from an MD like what is expected of me, kind of as in detail as possible, and given as much information, because again as well, like, we're all busy people and we're all spinning lots of plates, because that's what you do, you know, as a musician often. And I think, especially if I'm being expected to play specific parts, then if I can have those parts as far in advance as possible, so that in the time outside of the rehearsal, which is often a lot more than the rehearsal itself, I can come as prepared as possible, so we can get it done in the 2 or 3 days you've got before the show. Yeah. But I think also, that's it. You might be expected to kind of bring your own ideas too. So I like to be told if that's the case.
Yeah.
Just because, it can be quite daunting going into a room with new people, and then when somebody goes, okay, so we don't have a guitar part for this, can you just do that now and we're going to do a run through? So if that's what's going to be expected of me, then, I like to come in with a few ideas and kind of as much knowledge as possible.
I think it seems obvious that, well, of course, the music director is going to direct the music, but in the real world, it's common for that to not end up being the case, right? And for you to be rocking up and it's like that's the first time you get to hear the music, and it's a shame, and there's lots of different reasons for that to happen. Like sometimes it is an MD is just being fucking disorganized and needs to get their shit together, but then sometimes it's that for whatever reason as a music director you haven't been given everything or anything, in fact. Like more often than I'm sure, Si, you've had the same experience where people are like, yeah, rehearsals are at the end of the week, and you're like, can you send me the fucking album then? Because, I mean, let alone telling anyone else to play what, like, I need to send it to them too.
Yeah, I guess it's that thing of, laying that groundwork of expectation and the context that you're coming into. So where it's a gig that exists and you're a new musician on it, or it's a new gig, and I guess part of that conversation is, what's your role? What are you doing? What do you have? And I guess it's like, working with MDs who maybe don't want to tell you they don't have all the information, or they're just stressed, which is understandable. But I guess as a musician, it's just really helpful to know that if that's the environment you're going to walk into, it's going to be stressful and you're going to have to work on your feet a bit, potentially. But that allows you to sort of prepare for it and know what to expect when you get into the room. Because otherwise you can be quite isolated and go in and be like, did anyone else get sent anything? Especially if it's like first day on a gig, you're a new musician, you don't know anyone else. And I mean, definitely my head is one that goes to a place of like, well, everyone else has learnt everything, and I'm going to come, and I've not been sent the stuff, and I'm now too embarrassed to ask. And so I'm just going to come and fuck everything up. But I guess it's that thing of, I guess some of the expectation on a musician, and some of what I try to bring as a musician is that adaptability and that flexibility, and hopefully that mixture of preparation and intuition to respond to a situation. But it's really, really helpful to know how much of that is maybe going to need to be engaged on the thing. So I guess it's just that, actually, however prepared an MD may be able to be or not be for any given rehearsal or gig, communication is just really helpful. Yeah. So I guess like just clearly communicating things is it's
going to be a clusterfuck. Let's go.
But I appreciate that, because then we can all
you can all work together and exist in the clusterfuck that it is and get it done. It comes back to what you're saying of Polly, of being like, I just want to know. I want you to tell me exactly what it is you want from me, because I can improvise as much as I like, or I could just keep to the fucking part as much as I like. And it's one of our jobs as music directors, I think, when bringing that conversation to you guys is working with the artist as much as possible to figure out what their fucking vision is, because I think sometimes we can all get a bit mixed up in this, where such and such didn't tell me this, such and such didn't tell me that, and it's like, well, if you haven't figured out like what that music is, what it needs, what that artist is trying to say, there is no way we could ever say to you like, do this. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like it may be something where the musician, where the artist is like, I kind of want it to be completely improvised. I don't want anyone to learn anything. I deliberately want you to turn up and like just have to make it up as you go along, because it's about my messy experience with whatever. Maybe there's an art direction to it.
Sure.
Elaborate.
Also, like I don't expect MDs to know everything, and even if it's like, we don't know what we want, so we're going to figure it out in the room. Like it's a joint effort. It's it's the artist, it's the MD, it's the players. If it's very much like we know exactly what we want you to play, then it's different. But if it's kind of, especially like newer artists or artists and bands are wanting to reimagine a show, it's often kind of everyone coming in with ideas to get the end goal, So I don't expect the MD to just have all the answers.
I quite like that, partly because it makes me, it lets me off the hook for being unprepared, but also partly because it does echo what Si's saying, where it's just, I think we do sometimes get into our heads a little bit too much, because I certainly feel that with a lot of gigs. Sure. Like I should know every fucking thing about this, and for better or for worse, or whether that has made us a work in progress, help it become what it's become or not, I think you're totally fucking right, because it's a fucking village that makes these shows. It's so many humans, and it's the culmination of all of their ideas that's really what makes it brilliant at the end. Because, for example, guitar parts, like, sure, I played some guitar when I was a teenager. Who fucking didn't? But, like, you know, and I did, like, rock bands and whatever. But if we want the best guitar part, we should probably talk to the guitarist.
Don't talk to me.
No fucking way. Do you know what I mean? And these things, they sound obvious when we say them out loud, but actually we don't fucking do it ever. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Tom.
I mean, you don't have to just yes, man. Counterpoint, challenge me too, but that's cool. Yeah, like vibes of artists and stuff is definitely incredibly important. It informs parts, it informs players, it informs like the types of instruments that you're using and all that kind of thing. So I guess like in terms of like a music direction has changed kind of point, something that it's a conversation that I've now had a couple of times this evening is like fighting for people to have enough time to actually prepare for stuff. Someone came up earlier and was just like, yeah, that was literally my experience the other day, was the manager just said to me, we're getting 1 day of rehearsal. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, do you know what I mean? I think we've all had that, and maybe that's a big part of how we need to be helping you guys out is like, how much can we create lead time and give you those parts? And, you know, does that actually, well, I say, can we do that? I'm becoming like a problematic music director by saying, that's what we need to do, and you'll like it, and it will be great. Where it's like, actually, is there a balance for you guys of creating the right amount of prep time? Because also we're busy, right? Like I definitely find if I try to do a gig 6 months before it's supposed to go on stage and I've got 7 other things in between, I may not be as focused when I get to the 3 months before, and everybody's like, because you know, the artist has been living with it. It's been their whole fucking world. And then they're like, can I talk to you about this? And you're like, fuck, what? I can't remember anymore. I need to sit down and listen to the music again and read my notes. Like,
yeah, I guess in that hypothetical situation of like the single rehearsal, I guess even thinking about the last conversation that happened, and to me that sort of plays into a bit of that kind of advocacy piece.
Yeah.
And my expectation as a session musician walking into that would be, I hope that the MD has said to the artist and the management, of course we can deliver a show with 1 day's rehearsal, but it's gonna suffer.
Yeah.
And so I would hope that as a musician, what I'm walking into then, if that is what I need to deliver, that there's an expectation that the quality of the output will be compromised, and to recognise that that's not me.
Yeah.
So I guess that sort of thing, I guess in that example, as much prep would be helpful, but a single day's rehearsal is always going to be tricky, especially if that involves setup and load-out, depending on the size and the scale of the gig. But I guess that's like a good sort of case study, right? Of so like, what would be the best thing I had for 1 day's rehearsal for a brand new gig, and everyone's new on it?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a month of all the material would be amazing.
Yeah.
And open dialogue with everyone else in the band to prepare as much as possible.
Make another WhatsApp group.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, maybe, and you know, maybe a conversation about whether budget maybe can't afford the rehearsal time, but again, that advocacy for the musicians. Well, if that can't happen, can you pay us? Can you contribute to some prep time in that eventuality? And can we set up constraints around that? What does that mean? What's expected? That again, I guess as musicians, that we arrive and our role is play the music, I guess is the baseline.
Yeah.
Is sort of the bottom line is play the music, which generally isn't that hard. But it's can everything else be set up in a place that we can deliver that, and the MD has set up appropriate expectations of what will come in that, because terrible situation would be you come and the band aren't very good in 1 day's rehearsal, and the MD's like, yeah, they're shit, aren't they? Like, we'll just get some new people in next time. And because there's enough musicians around that you could rinse and repeat that for a while. So there's a bit of that I guess I would expect as a musician in that there's some protection for me from the MD, in that they're managing that expectations on manager level, that I don't need to send an email to management or artists being like, just so you know, massively compromised by the preparation time on this.
Yeah. Polly, I saw your microphone twitching.
Oh, sorry.
Did you have a point there?
Yeah, no, I would kind of say as well that I'd say a day is more of a run through than it is a rehearsal.
Yeah.
And I think maybe where it would be maybe an MD's job, you'd be able to tell me if it is to be like, we actually need more time. Because if you want the show to be great, like we need to actually rehearse, not just run through the songs. So like obviously, if it is that case, then having like a month to prep would be amazing. But even when budgets are small, I just think it's so important to rehearse and also to get everyone in the same room, because chemistry in a room translates to chemistry on stage, and I think that can be sometimes forgotten about, not always, but like having the time, as much time as humanly possible for musicians and artists and band and MD and everyone else to be in the same room is really important.
Yeah. I suppose we're all a victim of being able to relentlessly deliver really fucking good shows no matter the odds.
Yeah,
which is very much part of what makes you great at touring, right, and doing it. But at the same time, it's like, it's fucking unreasonable for us to do it in 24 hours, for example, using that as an example.
Yeah, I guess, is it ever appropriate to let it fail? When is it appropriate to let the shit hit the fan? Because I feel like we're always throwing our bodies in front of the bullet to save like people that at times it feels like don't care about us.
Yeah.
But and again, I guess it's that thing, right? We all, hopefully, there's a support structure amongst everyone to sort of look after that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like it's a really tricky one to deal with, I think, and too many people have made it work in the past, and so now there's maybe an expectation that, well, it doesn't really matter if I cut the budget.
Sure.
Like the numbers are just the numbers. We just need to make it work. Where actually the impact is much larger, and nobody ever says, "Oh, do you know what? We're going to do half the number of days of rehearsal, same set list."
Yeah.
In fact, we're adding 4 songs.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's normally the conversation that we have, and like it's not necessarily constructive. And we're always working to these deadlines that you can't fucking change. Like we can't just move the show because the band isn't ready. Like you just have to be ready and get the fuck through it. And show us this, baby. But like that's equally as toxic as maybe the action of doing this and like forcing this upon people. I guess part of this, and I kind of talked about it earlier as well, is creating a creative brief for your musicians. It's something that both of you guys kind of a lot in our chats before this were saying, like, I just kind of know like what the vibe is that the artist want. I'm fucking saying vibe again as well. Fuck. But what is it that these people want from me? How do we want to approach that? And I guess it's something that we all think that we do well. I think there's certainly an amount of ego to music direction that you need to be able to do it at all. And maybe we aren't always getting that right, because sometimes the band doesn't get that right. And I think that's as much our fault as it ever is you guys' fault. So in terms of presenting a creative brief, like maybe we should talk a bit more about what that actually looks like, how we can get that right, because I've got my way of doing it. Everyone else has got their way of doing it, and that's one of the problems that we're trying to address, I guess, is that we've all made it up as we went along. Like Polly, for you, if I'm presenting like the creative brief of the artist, like what are the key pieces of information that will help you make sense of that?
I guess to be really basic is like, do they want it to be a really acoustic sounding show, so lots of live instruments, or does it want to be more electronic? Because I'm that multi-instrumentalist, guys.
Hey.
So like what do I need to bring in to the rehearsal? Is it acoustic guitar, electric guitar, a synth, a keyboard, whatever? Like, I guess it's kind of what they want the records to translate live. Whether it's do we want it to sound exactly like the record, and if so, then my job is to listen to that and to come in with some sounds and kind of my interpretation of what like the guitar parts sound like, and what synths they're using and keys parts and whatever. But so I guess it's just being told how they want it to sound, whether it's like the record or whether it's a reimagination and what even that might look like. Would
something like a Spotify playlist potentially help of like, oh, here's music that we're referencing in terms of
references are
what
great.
We're doing?
Yeah, for sure. Like sonic references are super, super great.
Because what I find quite interesting actually is in like creative direction and art direction world, it's you haven't done your job properly if you haven't presented a deck at the end of it with like a fucking mood board of the types of pink we're going to choose. Which I know, like we laugh about it as musicians because we're like, oh, the type of pink. But it's the same as us agonising over whether it's a fuzz, an overdrive, or a distortion, right?
I mean,
100%.
I would love a fuzz pedal mood board. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But maybe we should fucking do that. Like, maybe we should go through a bunch of music that the artist likes and go, okay, cool. Like, maybe this is a good way to approach like the mood and atmosphere and sounds and creatively what you were trying to achieve in the first place. Because I mean, that would help you with bass sounds, right? If I can't just say like, I want the bass to sound nice.
I mean, you can.
You can, yeah. And you'll probably do it as well, because I know what you're like, but...
It depends on your definition of nice. Yeah, I guess like on my end, I guess more information's helpful, right? Like I would rather have more information than not, because I can decide what isn't relevant to some extent. You know, it's like give me the mood board, give me as much audio as I can possibly have would be amazing. Let me know if you've got thoughts about the color of the instrument. You know, I guess all of the, I mean, even like down to that stuff, I'm sort of, it's all welcome. Anything, I guess, that helps, especially like day one in a rehearsal room, anything that helps me arrive and the initial impression of everyone else be really good. If the artist walks into the room, it's like that fucking purple guitar in the corner. You know, it's like maybe they really hate, you know, a certain, you know, or just whatever. It's like I'd rather have to know as much of that as possible is really helpful, because then you can prepare. Yeah, I mean, there's not. I feel like that insinuated I had more to say, but that's it. Isn't it?
It's also great being given like a color scheme, because then you can buy a new instrument.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you got me with that when you were so sincere. You were like, it's great. Actually, the colour scheme's a good idea. Tom.
Yeah.
I need to buy more guitars.
Any justification to buy more stuff. But I guess aesthetic sensibility can be helpful as well, right? To know if there is an aesthetic sensibility to a show, if there is sort of a world that the artist wants to exist in, because that can inform so much about whether that's like even your sort of energy, your performance energy, like is what someone referencing. Are they referencing shoegaze? Right, I need to look at my feet the whole time. Are they looking at something a bit more unhinged? Do they, I mean, even that stuff, like how much movement do they want from the band? Yeah. Because some people hate it. And, you know, like you're there, and sometimes you get an air of that. Maybe you've auditioned, and from that you've got a sense of it. Maybe they have prior material and you've been able to watch and get a sense of it. But again, I guess it's all those little things that, I mean, I'm aware a lot of this is like ideal world thinking, because MDs may not know, they may be as new as you are. But I guess all that stuff that sets, I mean, like if the band are good, it's only going to make the MD look better. It's all going to help everyone. Yeah. So the best, just all the information, please. Everything
in as many formats as is humanly possible, please. Yeah. Totally. I mean, I guess a lot of what you guys are talking about there does kind of come round to something that could probably feel like a dirty word when we all go into like a creative industry trying not to sound too or be too corpo, right? Like that's certainly one of the reasons that I was like, yeah, music's the fucking place to go over there, because then I don't have to get a desk job. But you know, actually there's maybe an amount of, you know, leadership and creating environments that musicians can flourish in that we don't necessarily say out loud, and maybe as music directors we try to keep that as like maybe our secret sauce of like, yeah, but I can make musicians feel nicer in a room, that makes me better than all the other people, where it's like maybe that should just be the fucking basic, right? Because like what you guys are saying here is that you want to be prepared, but then you also want to be able to like explore that creative vision with the rest of the players, know if you need to move or not move. Do you think that kind of, I don't know, maybe gets us closer to like how we make those relationships as constructive as possible?
Yeah.
I went too corpo.
Yeah, I think if I understand the question correctly, I think creating an environment that is nice to be in, where you can both get the work you need to get done, as well as getting to know the musicians and the MD and the artists and the people around you, and taking enough breaks, I think, is important, because it's very tiring. So like, I guess, I think it's important. It's not solely on the MD, but like it's great to be able to create an environment that's nice to be in, especially when there's usually no windows.
Yeah, quite commonly.
You know, so just
looking at you, premises.
Is that what you were asking?
I think so. I think actually a lot of this, I don't always know what I'm asking, and I think. And look, it sounds funny, right? But also I think it's more about the conversation that none of us really have, because this is what I'm finding, about a lot of these things, and when I was doing the kind of research conversations with you guys, is there's a lot of stuff that maybe we should be able to vocalize quite easily, because actually it feels quite core to how these environments work properly, and we can't answer those questions, and I think it's because we don't necessarily have them yet. We may not have them, we may not figure it out right now, but fucking hell, like maybe we should go like, come on mate, can you make it more vibey in here? I fucking said it again.
We need vibes in here, mate.
We need more vibes.
I mean, vibes is a big part of it, isn't it? I mean,
it's so toxic, but we keep saying it.
I do. Although I guess it's like, I've never been a part of a show where if the energy and the relationships have been dysfunctional off stage, I've never been involved in a show that it's reached its true potential on stage.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's important to sort of try and crack down on some of that sort of sense of vibes. And like, I guess it's social dynamic, right? It's sort of sensitivity to the room. And I guess like some of that is like, where are there breaks? Can people eat? And I guess it's all of that stuff that sometimes like, I feel like I've been on recording sessions where it's like people are thinking about, well, the drummer should probably eat a pizza before he records, because he's going to need energy to get through the performance. But I don't feel like that thinking always comes through to live stuff.
Yeah.
And it's funny, because I think it is the vibes thing sometimes exists more at that creative edge. And when we're sort of at that recreative edge of recreating that thing, well, it's like very rarely is anyone really thinking about some of that stuff you think of in the studio, like what temperature is the room, like how does it smell? And obviously sometimes, I guess all those little things that like, obviously you're very limited in what you can do with that, but it's actually as much as you do have control over that, how are you being sensitive to that, and how is that being facilitated? And I guess as a musician, it's difficult, because as a musician, I think it's that thing of some of that vibes thing a little bit is almost like musical arrangement. It's that thing of having that sort of social and emotional sensitivity to know in a room, in the same way that in a track, it's like, how do I voice my guitar? Do I need to play the full chord? No, maybe I only need to play a triad here. That's enough within the context of the music. I guess similarly, as a metaphor to the social aspect, what's required of you in that social environment? Do I need to be a big character? Do I need to be a smaller character? And I guess similarly, I guess it's like music director, how much is their leadership role? That can be dynamic, that can change from gig to gig. But are they leading? Are they maybe, again, it's like, who's the person? If you're noticing maybe that maybe my jokes are inappropriate, maybe I've not washed. Or like a little thing, it could be a thing, like maybe the artist hates the fact I came into work in a tracksuit, and they're like, I want you to look more, I want you to look like you've come to work. It's like, well, who's going to say that before it becomes a problem? Where's that expectation from? And I guess all of that sort of feeds in to some of the vibes, and I guess some of that being able to see before things become a problem. It's like, is there a clash of personalities here? It's sort of that thing of, I guess it's hard, where does the responsibility for that lie? Where does vibes lie? But I guess it is that thing of like, it is important to try, as toxic as maybe the idea can be, it's like, well, how do we sort of look at quantifying it? Because I definitely know that I've got gigs and lost gigs based on a vibe, and people have been able to articulate that to different degrees. And I guess it's like, for me, there's some self-reflection on that, and you sort of have that thing of be like, well, I was a dick. I've been on a gig in the past where I was explicitly told I wasn't being outgoing enough in the offstage time, and it was like, that was a, thankfully again on that I had an MD and I had a team around me that I was able to talk to and navigated it and kept the gig somehow, and just sort of but again what that required from me was a bit more engagement. but also sort of having people that could hold my back to be like, you know, I don't have that extrovert energy. Are you still happy with what I'm doing on stage? How, you know, like if this is going to be an aspect of this, how do I better serve that? You know, and thankfully in that situation, it didn't cost me the job. I mean, I did call home. I was like, I think I might come home tomorrow. But I guess in those instances, it's helpful to have, again, it's like dialogue and communication is helpful because maybe that, you know, me not dancing on the table with everyone else, you know, wasn't the vibe, but it's like, but I was never going to do, you know, like that's not part of my character. So it's like, right, well, how can I, if I'm serving you in these other ways, how can I, you know, again, it's sort of like there's an element of service industry to it as well. It's like, certainly for me as a musician, I'm like, and all my roles, I don't have my own project, so I guess it's separate to how you may feel, Polly, but I guess for me, it's like, this isn't my project. I just want this to be the best possible thing that you're making, and I just want to be a part of it. And I, again, speaking for myself, I just love playing music. And so anything that can support that or create structure for me to be free to do that is like the best thing ever. And hopefully that serves people and is useful, right?
But I think that what you're saying there is kind of maybe what it is, but maybe that's what we're trying to dig into is how do we make it as easy as possible there for you to just exist musically and like try and keep our conversations more musical than vibes, you know? Because I think there's difference between, and I found this when I was an artist years ago, there's a difference between people who I like to go to the pub with, and there's a difference between people who I love getting in the studio with. And that's kind of all right? Just because you're mates with someone doesn't mean you have to like click musically necessarily. And because we're all different, we're all kind of unique in terms of our musicality and in terms of our personality, right? And I feel like maybe they're different things, and it's kind of okay for that to happen. And it's okay to talk about it too, because it certainly can maybe come across as slightly awkward to say like, hey, Simon, like, vibes aren't right. But also maybe there's a more constructive conversation there, which I'm glad, like in that situation, you did have a team around you who could actually support through that and go like, banging bass player though. And they were like, love those tones.
I guess in all of it is like information and communication. I feel like it's like with all of that, some of the vibe stuff can be, if you're having enough conversations about things or like if there's openness about things, that helps all of that, doesn't it? And I guess similarly in preparing for gigs and all of that stuff in the like, what instruments do I need to bring, what tunings do I, you know, all of that stuff is, I guess in all of it, it's like communicate clearly and give me the relevant information, you know. Don't send me the budget. I don't want that.
But you need to approve it with the management for me because I'm scared of them. So before doing these, I also opened up like a Google form where people could ask questions about, you know, just add questions into the conversation so it's not exclusively us all saying like, well, we know because we're professionals, and it's, you know, that's not really the point of what we're trying to do here. Unfortunately, I didn't actually get many, so maybe it was a bad idea. But we did get one that I thought was really interesting and really useful for this conversation, which was, so if you're approaching music outside the expected scope of you as a player, how do you keep sharp across all genres? Which I thought was actually, that's a fucking sick question. You should host this fucking podcast. But like, it's also something interesting to talk about, I think, because we have a personal experience of kind of doing that, where when you came on to play on Izzy Cross with us when we were music directing, and it was not maybe necessarily if you know like your artist project and some of the other artists that you played before, like the 1975, like approaching drum and bass is maybe not something that people would expect of you. And we did it, and the show was sick, and it was really lovely working with you and stuff. So I thought that was really good, because it was like, well, Polly fucking went and did that for this gig. So
yeah,
it would be good to talk about kind of your process, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's do you know, I've actually been thinking about this. Because I, to be fully transparent, kind of didn't ever mean to be a session musician, as I'm sure there's people in this room who are the same. But I kind of fell into it by being asked by mates, and then it kind of rolled on, and it's been kind of about 9 or 10 years now. But like, I'm still learning that, and I'm still every day trying to kind of expand my knowledge of music and expand my style. Oh, I don't know what I just said there. Expand my styles of playing. And like, you know, I won't always be right for a gig. And, you know, thank you for believing in me for Izzy Cross, you know, and that was so much fun. I had so much fun doing that, and I learned a lot. And I think that's the thing for me, is that, you know, it won't always be right, but if you can be kind of adding to your repertoire at all times, it at least helps, you know. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it was sick, and I think there was something that we said on that What Music Directors Expect of Session Musicians podcast just before, where, you know, exploring music is a good way to make content on your Insta if you're trying to get, you know, booked as a session musician. So like, maybe do try and play a drum and bass song, try and play a hip hop song, try and play an R&B song, try and play a pop song, and like, maybe you'll start to also find things that you click with that weren't something that you expected. I mean, that's how I ended up in electronic music. Like, nobody said to me, I never said like, I'm going to do electronic music now. It's just like a process of, you know, exploring genres and finding what fits right. You know what I mean? Sly, you've done lots of different music as well, so I guess getting your take on that would be good, because your sound design skills are, you know, pretty impressive. You know, you have a way with a quad cortex that few people have. So,
my word.
Talk later.
But you know, it's also true, and it's really interesting. And like, stories of people talking to you about building things with that is something that is interesting. And you know, to get into the sound design thing, you need to look further than maybe something that you're comfortable with, right? So I feel like maybe you're quite adept in approaching music out of scope.
Two key parts of that have been an obsessive personality and a limited social life.
We did our pre-content on a Zoom call in your studio, and it was just Cy, and I'm not even lying, it was 15 fucking guitars behind his head.
Yeah, maybe. I know, luckily the synth tower wasn't in the shot as well. I love music, so I just listen all the time.
Yeah.
Which I think is easy. There have definitely been seasons when I haven't done that, and I feel like that's an important thing. I feel like so often we work in it and we can feel saturated by it, and it's like, like actually just listen and maybe. Yes, maybe if you're listening to a lot of music, think about how you could broaden that. But if you're not listening, maybe start listening to things you like. Yeah. Don't punish yourself first. It's I mean, a lot of certainly when I was younger, I had like an encounter where I'd been hired for something, and before that, a lot of the stuff I'd done, I'd been playing. I'd sort of grown up in sort of like hardcore punk and indie bands, and that had been a large part of that context. I'd also done some work as a church musician, which had informed some of that. But a lot of my sort of session work early on had been playing for mates' bands, which was mostly in the scene I was in, was a lot of post-hardcore and indie. So that was what I brought with me to sessions. And then around 21, I thought, do you know what? I was a bass player, and I thought I need an active 5-string jazz bass. And
we all get there at some point.
So I bought one, and then took it to a thing, and the guy was like, "What the fuck is that? Like, what have you?" He was like, "That's not why I call you." So I guess for me early on, the next day I sold the 5-string jazz bass and bought a Gibson Grabber and some fuzz pedals. And it was sort of like, but I guess for me that's informed things, because I've sort of had that thing of like, my tastes are relatively diverse. I like a lot of music, but I also I think early on I kind of that lesson for me was more of a like, I'll be right for some things, I won't be right for other things. I'm not going to worry about it either, because it's happening anyway. And this one time I went and bought the thing that I don't like, and I would have hated. I mean, I'm not the right call for that. And maybe I can do it. There have been times in the past where I've had a call for a gig, and I have had a bit of that, like, should I do it? Should I not do it? Is it, you know, again, in my sort of like overthinking head, I'm like, is it morally right for me to say yes to this thing that someone else could be good for? You know, and it's like you talk to the people, they're like, everyone else would just say yes to the work. And, you know, and again, sometimes it's like, well, then if I say yes to it, the responsibility for me is to try and immerse myself into the world of the artist and I'm yet to find much music I don't like, so that helps.
Yeah.
So then you just listen to it, right? But maybe there have been times where I have turned things down because maybe I'm not appropriate for it as well. So some of it is maybe a bit of that, but I'm aware that it's a privileged position to be in a place where you can say no to something. So it's like, I think some of it is working out, but also having some of that awareness of if you do say yes to something, you might be saying no to something further down the line you'd enjoy more. So it's like, could you do that style of music if you don't like it? What are the, is there growth there? Is that good? Will you enjoy it? Will it be satisfying? Generally it is. But also it's okay to not be a chameleon. I think in session world, it's like there can be this idea of I need to be a chameleon. And I also think it's also cool to be a specialist and just be that person that it's like, if you need that thing, that's the person they need. And because sometimes specialism can lead to diversity of repertoire, because it's like, actually the really cool thing is to have that guitarist who has a really distinct style, and it's like, actually, that might be useful. And again, I feel like music genres and production styles are becoming so sort of diverse in terms of how they explore and play with genre, and genre just feels less and less like a thing. That I feel like even with that, it's like, I just feel like, just follow the stuff that excites you for the large part. Because I think on Instagram, on all of that stuff, enjoying something will come across hugely. Enjoying something on stage. No one wants to watch a stage and be like, that guitarist looks like they're trying really hard. Or that drummer looks bored or miserable. You want to, everyone wants this to be the dream job. And it can be, but it can also be really miserable. So it's like, it's that really hard balance, isn't it? Of like, broaden your skill set as much as possible, but also, how much can you really strengthen your weaknesses compared to how much you can enhance your strengths. Yeah. And it's like, and if you really love doing something, that's contagious and I think is attractive to people. Like, people want that. People want someone who's amazing at something. They don't want someone who's like, they can do a lot of different things. Yeah. So it's, I guess there's tension there. So, I guess that's not an answer. It's a question maybe, but... I think, unfortunately, the more that I've been researching this, the more it is only questions and there are no answers. And I think that it speaks truth to the amount of conversations that none of us are having that maybe we should. Because that particular question that someone sent saying approaching music's outside of the scope of what you're normally doing, I was like, that's fucking interesting because... Have I ever thought about that? I never fucking have, and maybe we should. Maybe we should talk about that. Maybe we should try and figure out what that means and what that is and the best way to approach it. We are running out of time, as always, with these. The time is flying by. And that's probably quite a good place to finish, to be honest. So thank you both so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Coming by. I appreciate you. Make some noise for Polly Lonnie inside Francis. So, this is amazing that so many people have stayed this fucking long. Oh my God. And after this, we've got a really exciting conversation with an artist called Piri, who's kind of become a friend of mine over the years. I think I'd consider us friends. Do you consider us friends? I hope so. Called Using Our Words, a conversation about being an artist in live music with Piri. So hopefully that will just kind of bring all of this to that kind of that crossover point of all these conversations and work that we do. That's kind of what it's for. So thank you so much, everybody. Hang out in the bar for a little bit, have some drinks.